Ready?
We are recording.
Okay, great. Let's begin call the meeting to order at 4:09. Please call the roll.
Okay. Member LaHood? Can you hear me?
Present.
Member LaHood present. Vice Chair Josh Wolf?
Present.
Josh Wolf present. Member Tesley?
Present.
Member Tesley present. Okay. Member Highland? Member Highland not present. Matthew Yankee?
Present.
Member Yankee present. Member Hinsey?
Present.
Member Hinsey present. Chair Wolf?
Present.
Chair Wolf present. We have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you.
Shall I read the remote access information on participation?
Please
Okay.
read the notice.
In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order Number N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London N. Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via teleconference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to CherylLeger@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. So do you want to read meeting quorum, Bruce?
You have one little extra piece on the second page.
Okay. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process.
Meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and/or menacing behavior may be asked to leave. Okay, let's call the first item.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Are there any agenda changes?
Okay, hearing none. Let's move to item number 2.
Item number 2, approval of the minutes from the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force June 23rd, 2020 and July 1, 2020 meetings.
Changes or adjustments to the minutes?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Any changes or adjustments to the minutes? Hearing none. Member Yankee?
They look great.
Perfect. Great.
I have nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can approve both of them, or did you want to do them separate?
Oh, are there 2?
Well, whatever you think.
I'll move to approve both sets of minutes.
Okay.
I'll
Right.
second.
Okay.
Lila second.
All right.
Member LaHood second. But what I will do is I will ask for public comment independently for each one, so members of the public can have their full 2 minutes.
What is that?
Sorry. Okay, let's, any public comment? Can somebody,
Playing music.
mute, please? Mute their
There's no
phone.
music here.
No, it's coming off of somebody's phone. Is there any members of the public who wish to comment on either of the minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to approve both sets of minutes. We will take that as a
Acclamation.
single motion. And we is there any objection to approving this by acclamation? Okay, seeing none, the minutes are approved. Let's move to item number 3.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force on matters that are within the task force jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
Okay. Victor, are you going to manage the queue here?
I wasn't planning on it, but I can get you started.
Up to you.
Are we talking about public comment at this time?
Yes, we are in public comment.
Are there any members of the public who would like to make comment on this item at this time? Please announce yourself. I do not hear any response. I believe if you want to unmute yourself, you can press *6. The majority of the phone callers are not muted at this time, so last call for public comment. I do not hear any response. It's my assumption there are no public comment on this matter.
Okay, public comment is closed. Let's move to item number 4.
Item number 4, file number 20072, per Board of Supervisors file number 200552, authorizing Sunshine Ordinance Task Force to meet in July 2020 and inclusive of Administrative Code, Chapter 67 et al., but not limited to Chapter 6730C. The San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance, hearing to consider the impact of emergency orders due to COVID-19, which resulted in the temporary suspension of various provisions of the California Public Records Act, Ralph M. Brown Open Meetings Act, San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance, and other related laws and statutes that may apply within the jurisdiction of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. There are 4 subject matters: public records, requests delayed during the emergency, issues related to lack of emergency posting, lack of access to the meetings during the emergency, planning and standards for future emergencies.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make a clarification on the description here. The task force is meeting not per the board supervisor file 200552. That is actually been continued and held because the same day that it was going to be action was going to be taken on it, the mayor had lifted the order for allowing all meeting bodies to meet. So we are operating like any other meeting body at this time. The Board of Supervisors held that item on file open in case something had changed, so that they already had it in the pipeline in case to override in a future order by the mayor. Okay. With that, I want to pick up kind of where we left off with Member Tesfaye with regards to the work with the League of Women Voters on one-stop shop.
Great. Here, let me pull up my notes from my meeting with Allison Washburn. Okay, thank you. So last month I met with a former Sunshine Ordinance Task Force member, Allison Washburn. I had let our board know that the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force was looking for an opportunity to provide further guidance to the city on bringing greater transparency into all of the online meetings that were occurring in order to allow citizens to continue their participation, where members of the public would have been able to join meetings at City Hall, whether planned in advance or just popping in while at City Hall. That opportunity doesn't exist during the pandemic. And so our board tasked me with meeting with Allison Washburn, who is a former Sunshine Ordinance Task Force member and is also a member of San Franciscans for Sunshine, which is another nonprofit organization with a mission of improving sunshine in San Francisco. Meeting with her last month, I was able to gain some further feedback to report back to you on, ways that we could try and execute these recommendations in the best way possible. So first, Allison, from serving on the task force for such a long time, she gained the experience that not every department, under the ordinance has its own responsibility to be in compliance with the ordinance. And so, we really talked through the idea about making sure that each department would supply the information on its own meetings to this potential one-stop shop. We wouldn't necessarily have one person for the entire city that was responsible for posting, because that could potentially be in violation of the ordinance by not making each department or commission, for example, responsible for making sure that its meetings were properly posted. So the first thing that we were talking about was making sure that each entity, would fill out some type of online form, similar to like a Google form or, any other type of platform, in order to post the information for its meeting straight to the website with specific requirements for what they have to fill in order to make sure that they are in compliance with the ordinance. So this would help each of the departments know, what the requirements are by making sure that the form corresponded to the requirements of the ordinance, including timing of the meeting, the way to call into the meeting, how to access the agenda, all of that to make sure all of the postings are consistent. In addition to that, we talked about, where would be the best place to have this kind of information located. We talked about kind of how pre-pandemic, people were used to seeing postings at the library or on certain bulletin boards at City Hall, and how those locations aren't really available at this time. And so we discussed the opportunity for having, a sidebar specifically on sfgov.org that had a couple of different items. First, included on the sidebar would be a cycling list of the meetings that were actually occurring that day specifically. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure that the public was aware about meetings that were coming up. So there we talked about, in addition to having a cycling bar of the day's meetings, having a drop-down menu and a calendar. So the calendar would have, each day of the month, of the upcoming months, and each of those days you could click on it and see what meetings were coming up. But then in addition to that, so that people don't have to hunt and peck for specific meetings if they have a specific type of meeting that they're looking for, so there would also be categories that have drop-down menus for each city department as well as each board or commission, so that if someone was looking specifically for the planning department, they wouldn't have to click on each specific date. And this is a really important addition that I hadn't thought of that Allison walked me through, where certain members of the public are looking for specific things and they shouldn't have to click on every single day on a calendar in order to find which day the planning department meets, for example. So that drop-down menu with the specific categories was really important, in addition to having a scrolling sidebar of the day's meetings, as well as being able to check by specific calendar date. Something else that Allison specifically mentioned were making sure that the sidebar included, when you got to the different boards and commissions and city departments, making sure that the agenda would be there with the materials, as well as access to past meeting minutes. She was explaining that a lot of different bodies that meet have continued items from meetings in the past, and so making sure that the minutes are also part of this one-stop shop is really important, so that as people look at the calendar feature that I was talking about, if they look at a date that was in the past, they should be able to see, what meetings have already occurred and what the minutes were for those meetings. So it's both backwards looking as well as forwards looking, for upcoming meetings as well. And that is my report back from Allison. And so, I would love to hear any feedback that you guys have on, this is kind of what we have right now. And if you guys have any additional feedback before potentially pursuing this with Department of Technology.
This is Lila. The one thing, I know we're looking at this because of the challenges due to the pandemic, but I think putting together something like this would be a great service under any circumstances, allowing people to understand what meetings are happening through all departments at City Hall and being able to identify those in one place. I am wondering, based on your recommendations, in order not to have information stored in multiple places, I think the calendar and the being able to find what departments are meeting when, I agree 100% with that. Do you think it would be sufficient to then have the meetings link back to what is already posted on various department websites, or do you think it really does not need to be all integrated?
I think that's a good point. Before I respond, I'd like to hear if anybody has anything that they want to tag on to what Member LaHood said, and then maybe we can discuss it from there. I think that's a really good point.
This is Fiona. It sounds like this has all been very well thought through and very well thought out, and you have great ideas. I'm just going to clarify real quick. This would be housed on sfgov.org, like the main page.
Yes, that was the idea.
Okay. And then I was
sorry, Fiona, could you repeat that?
Cheryl, you're
Fiona,
talking
did you? Yeah, I was talking to you, Fiona. I couldn't hear what you said. Could you repeat that, please?
So basically, I was asking, I was clarifying that it was indeed Member Testifi's vision that this would be housed on sfgov.org, the main page of sfgov.org. And then my next question, in asking that question, is probably the thing, but it would link back to each individual department page, I'm guessing.
So I think that goes to Member LaHood's question, right, about linking back to each department. So if no one else has comments on that, then I would like to kind of explore that idea. So I think that makes a lot of sense to have each of these things be able to link back to the department's the actual department's website. And I think that really ties into part one, where each of the entities is filling out the standardized form. That part of that form would include links back to your department-specific website that houses the specific information. So, for example, when the staff person puts the agenda in, they're not actually uploading the agenda, they're uploading the link to their department's page with the agenda. So that would, I think, also help with, trying to remember the word, but the index of records that each department is supposed to have. It would help facilitate, that whole process as well automatically. So I think that's a really good point. And so I just wanted to let you know kind of what I was thinking here is that I'm taking notes on some of these things that you guys are saying, and then I would be happy to prepare a draft memo for Member Wolf to finalize. I think Member Wolf should be the one that finalizes it and adds any little touches. And then my thought would be that this proposal would be sent on official Sunshine Ordinance Task Force letterhead to the technology department.
There's actually, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
After the memo is finalized by this group. So I would prepare the draft and then maybe after we get the feedback in this public discussion, and then maybe we could vote on the memo at the next meeting.
Okay. I mean, we can approve it here in concept, and then whatever tweaks or what have you, because to wait an entire month to move this forward, we're losing a lot of time. As we know, the shelter in place is not going away any day soon. So we want to try to. That
would be fine with me if it's okay with the group to vote on it in concept and then and then as part of that motion, allow me to, draft the initial version, and then I would give it to Member Wolf to finalize and execute, if you will, or transmit it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say we can continue the discussion and see if anybody else has any additional feedback. But I did note what Member LaHood said about the links, and then confirming what Member Hinsey had said about, where would this live. I'm confirming that the idea was to have it be a sidebar on sfgov.org. Allison and I were looking at the website, and I think it's good that it has it's not too cluttered, but I think there is space to include something like this on the main page. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just know that Department of Technology may not be, that could be one place it could go, but I think maybe there's a new, it's either Department or Office of Digital Services. And they're the ones that are actually managing kind of the website and online platforms, as far as user interactivity, user engagement. Department of Technology just kind of installs the software to make sure that it's available for actual use. So we're really talking about something very subjective around content on the web page, and it probably will be Digital Services that manages it. But we'll make sure we'll put those correct recommendations in and include both departments because we want to make sure that the right people we want to make sure it gets up. We want to make sure that it actually happens. So, all right. Any other points from members on this before we open it to public comment?
I did have one other question, real quick.
Yes.
Do you want to go first, Matt?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Way back when we started this conversation, it was in reference to, I believe, a resolution by Supervisor Fewer about open meetings. I just wondered, are we at all still working with her office? Are they involved in this process at all anymore?
Well, I have not communicated with them. I don't know if Member Tesfaye did with regards to this. It's basically the subject matter of that resolution to ensure that the Brown Act is being complied with and making those recommendations by resolution. It's not an ordinance, I don't believe. I think it was just a resolution so that everybody's on alert by it. But that was the thrust of Member Tesfaye's work on this. And we can certainly connect. I can certainly connect with her and her office to as we bring these items forward to get support and make sure that the Board of Supervisors are fully aware of what we're recommending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was all I was recommending, that we check in with her.
Okay. Member Yankee.
Okay, I was just going to echo what Member Hood said. I think, it's important to stress that when we do this memo, put some kind of wording in there that says this isn't just a great idea for the pandemic period, but, even looking forward. I just don't want, someone to think that, if the pandemic's wearing down or whatever, that they should stop working on this. I think it's a very, excellent idea to look long range with. And so I think we should stress that it's not just a temporary thing. We should think of it as a long-term into the future idea.
Very good. Cheryl, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'm getting like weird echoes, and that was especially true with Fiona when she was talking about the conversation and working with the open meetings concept. I didn't hear everything you said. There was an echo.
So are you still echoing, Cheryl? I'm happy.
Not as much. Not as much.
Okay, so basically what I said was I was referencing that when we first started this conversation, it was somewhat in reference to a resolution from Supervisor Fewer's office with regard to, as Chair Wolf was saying, making sure that the components of the Brown Act and open meeting laws and acts were followed. So I was recommending that maybe it might be good to check in with her office, looking long term to get a champion of this and ensuring that, reminding them sort of their own resolution and recommendations.
Their original idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. That's
Okay.
good.
I just want to add one thing, that if you actually go to the front page of the city's website, sfgov.org, there isn't anything there that is prominent COVID-19. It is buried almost below the fold in a simple link surrounded by other links under services. What they have there is at the top is a banner that says plan safer outings to help reopen San Francisco. Completely unrelated, pretty much to, the pandemic per se. It's kind of implied, but it can mean anything. And I think another recommendation, that we might make is that there be a little more promotion is not a great right word, but a little more visibility of the pandemic issues that are up there, because the changes that are being made on Sunshine are due to that. And so it should be somewhat connected together. And so if we're going to put up an area specifically for meetings, it should be noted as to like what it pertains to. Why, also, I don't know, maybe it's not a great idea, but
No.
Go ahead, member testify.
Well, I want to ask to kind of flesh that idea out. So I think what you're asking is that as part of this proposal, we would include at least some type of a reference to what laws that these meetings are occurring pursuant to, given the temporary suspensions of provisions of the Brown Act at this time. So you're saying, that's what I'm hearing you say, is that is make reference to the temporary suspension of the Brown Act and maybe a link to the document or something of that nature. Okay.
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
May I speak? I don't know how this works.
Yes, go ahead. Vice Chair.
I think that realistically, a simple sentence is like, while SFGov meetings are held remotely due to the pandemic, and then the information, I think it really only needs to be a single sentence, and then for more information with a link that then explains the Brown Act and all of the legal stuff. I think that it is a lot cleaner to just have a simple sentence and then you can click to find out what's going on, because the meat of the matter is this is how you engage with our government while it is this way. And if you want to know why, because you don't already, you can click.
Sure, why not? The lifeblood of our government is for the people's right to know, and the way they get to know that is through our public meetings, and that should be prominent on the front page, as everybody has been suggesting. So yeah, I agree. Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item?
Are there any members of the public on the phone lines who wish to make public comment at this time? Please announce yourself.
Okay, hearing no public comment, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is Member LaHood. I'll make a motion to authorize this concept in principle to be, with the details to be worked out between Member Tesfaye and Chair Wolf.
Second that.
I'm just wondering if we want to be a little more specific, but I just don't know.
Yeah, if you would like, how about before making the motion, I can kind of summarize what I said, as well as the additional information that I got from the rest of the members. Would that help?
Yeah.
Members?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so the concept and principle for purposes of formation of the motion is to create a one-stop shop at sfgov.org in order to support public monitoring and participation in open meetings, both during the pandemic and beyond. This idea and principle includes the following, including a form that allows each department and commission to fill in all of the required portions of their upcoming meetings. This entry form would include information that advises each of the departments on timing responsibilities pursuant to the Brown Act and the Sunshine Ordinance, as well as portions of the form that would be links to their website where the agenda is being held. In addition to this one-stop shop concept is that of a sidebar at sfgov.org. This would include a number of items discussed in principle today, including a scrolling bar of today's meetings, a calendar function that shows which meetings are happening on which date, both in the future as well as in the past, and the link for each day would include the information that was filled out in the form that I just described by each department. The sidebar would also include a drop-down menu with categories to include all of the boards and commissions and city departments that are holding public meetings. This would allow members of the public to find specific meetings, not just based on the date that it might occur through the calendar function, but by the subject matter, so that members of the public can find meetings based on interests and concerns to them. We would make sure that this, the memo outlining this idea was circulated to the Office of Digital Services as well as Department of Technology and any other departments that our chair sees fit. We would also make sure that this one-stop shop at sfgov.org included a brief sentence and link to the temporary suspension of the Brown Act order so that members of the public can understand why meetings aren't happening in person. And then in addition to that, Chair Wolf will be tasked with informing our partners at the Board of Supervisors, more specifically Supervisor Fior's office, of these efforts.
Okay, there's the
Is
maker
that
of the
everything
motion.
that we discussed?
Great. The maker of motion.
So the motion includes Chair Wolf submitting this document that has been described just now in the motion.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually making the motion. I was just summarizing what we had discussed so that Member LaHood could reference it high level if she chooses to make her motion. But what I just described did include Chair Wolf finalizing the draft of the memo that I prepare, as well as transmitting it to the relevant departments and discussing it with any members of the Board of Supervisors as needed.
Through the chair?
Go ahead.
So this all sounds really good, but at the same time, our agenda didn't describe this action happening. So members of the public who may not be aware that this is our plan may not be here to comment on it. And so to that extent, while I understand why time is of the essence and waiting to actually formally take action and move this ball forward till our next meeting is unfortunate, I'm concerned about the sort of process and skipping steps that we otherwise wouldn't skip if it weren't for the pandemic.
Actually, that is incorrect. We have been discussing this over the past 2 meetings. It is reflected in the minutes.
It's reflected in the minutes, but it's not its own agenda item, or reflected in the agenda item that we're discussing, though.
What's reflected in the agenda item is all the items that we've been talking about for the past 2 months.
I mean, I'm still of the opinion that basically it is easier for the public to be aware and sign on by agendaizing this at the next meeting with the formal language that's been discussed and then voting on the language itself.
Well, we hadn't done that with the previous items. We discussed them and developed them during the meeting. The public who was there, because we didn't know, actually, we were figuring it all out, and we approved them on the spot.
Okay.
I mean, we're just following what we've been doing for the past 2 months and over the course of 4 meetings. Or 3 meetings, actually. This is the 4th meeting.
Member Wolf, I was wondering if we could Chair Wolf, excuse me. I was wondering if we could potentially ask for some advice from our attorney, Mark Price Wolf, on this issue that was raised by Vice Chair Wolf, and see if he has any recommendations about how to move forward.
Go ahead, through the chair, DCA Wolf.
Sorry, I'm here. Can you sort of re-articulate specifically, what the concern is?
Yeah, the concern is that
you want advice on?
Sure. The concern is that the item that we were just discussing is not reflected in the agenda description specifically, and so that there may have been members of the public that didn't know that this was going to be discussed today. But this item has been of topic since we started this file 2 months ago, and has been in the ongoing discussions and reflected in the minutes.
Let me take another look at the agenda.
And just so I'm clear, I didn't think that we were legally in the wrong in moving forward in it so much as a best practice sort of situation. I'm eager to hear what the lawyer has to say.
Yeah.
And so is the concern here specifically because of the pending motion, and not just because we're talking about it, but because of the pending motion, correct?
Correct.
I guess when I read the agenda, it covers all of the topics we're discussing, real broad strokes. So, I mean, I feel comfortable moving forward with the vote, especially when it's read in conjunction with description of the minutes from the past meetings. So, it doesn't have the level of specificity that's being discussed now, but agendas don't have to have that level of specificity. So I think Member Wolf's point is well taken, but I don't think it's crossed any sort of line that it needs to be put over for another meeting.
Right, and I think also with item number 4, it specifically says issues related to lack of meeting postings and lack of access to the meetings during the emergency, and that's what we're discussing and trying to address right now. So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and again, I've always thought we were in legally safe territory just from a public citizen navigating our agenda. It hasn't been as easy to negotiate as it has been before the pandemic, and as negotiable or as navigable as I think we could strive for.
Okay, but does it? Are you satisfied at this point, or are you still holding it?
I'll vote for it, but I'm not satisfied. I still think it would be better to bring it forward to vote on with the language itself, because that's the approach we used prior to the pandemic. But you made the clear point that we've done some things along the similar lines during the pandemic before now. So, I will, for the good of the whole, vote for it.
Okay. All right, very good. So let's get back to the motion. Does the original motion, maker of the motion, do you want to amend your motion? Do you want to accept the description that Member Tesfaye put forward?
I would like to accept the description that Member Tesfaye set forward, because I started taking notes on it and I realized it would take me several minutes to repeat what she had said so eloquently. And I am satisfied with her statement and would like it to be appended to my original motion.
Great. And the seconder?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, great. All right, let's open it up for public comment. Any public comment on the motion?
Yeah. So it's all great and well to have a calendar. In fact, I regularly use the SFGov TV calendar to find out what meetings are when, but that's not very helpful when, different boards and such have special meetings that they conduct that, get announced a day or two before the meeting. So I think something that would be helpful would be something like a, mailing list requiring the board of supervisors or all these various committees and stuff to have mailing lists that people can sign up for, so that, say, someone has a particular interest in, for example, the police commission, that they can sign up for like a police commission mailing list and get emails on updates on like when the police commission is meeting and the agenda and so on and so forth. And I guess all this doesn't really solve the problem of people who don't have access to the internet, and people who are otherwise shut off from, phones and whatnot.
I can't hear what she's saying.
Are you done, speaker?
Sure.
Okay.
Can she repeat what she said, because it was really echoed?
I think you're going to have to listen to the playback at this point. We need to move on.
I can sum. Oh, okay.
I just want to continue to move on here. Next speaker. Are there any other speakers on this motion? Okay, hearing none. Please call the roll.
Member LaHood?
Aye.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Okay. Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Wolf, aye. Member Tesfaye?
Aye.
Member Tesfaye, aye. Member Kinsey?
Aye.
Member Kinsey, aye. Member Highland, absent. Chair Wolf?
Aye.
Chair Wolf, aye. The motion passes.
Very good. Thank you. Please call the next item.
Well, actually, Member Wolf, can I make a few remarks after we voted?
Sure.
After the vote? So I did just, thank you for passing that motion. I did, just want to make a couple of remarks. First, related to the ideas from the public speaker, I think that they are of merit. I think that they don't fit squarely into the memo and the proposal at hand about one-stop shop, but I think this idea about different mailing lists for different departments is maybe something that we can pursue in our ongoing efforts to improve transparency and access to public meetings. I also think this point about, how do we help people without access to the internet is another really good point, and maybe something else for this task force to brainstorm on in the future. The pandemic has really exacerbated the issue related to the digital divide. I know that this body has tried to at least make meetings available by phone. People can call in, but again, if you don't have the internet to know that the meeting is happening, then that makes it a bit more difficult to do so. So I just wanted to, thank Member LaHood for the motion, and then also just give some, affirmation related to the public comment and things for us to work on in the future, even though they don't squarely fit within this proposal. So thanks.
I'll just clarify that in our previous work, we did address the issue of digital divide. And for those people who now have lost access to the internet at the library, for the city to find ways for people to get access either through free Wi-Fi in certain neighborhoods to like increase free Wi-Fi, or actually bring the Wi-Fi to them somehow. Or some internet access to them, because Wi-Fi isn't everywhere. So we have made that there. Okay, let's call.
What about some sort of system that sends a text message for folks so that they're notified that there's a meeting?
So currently you can request to be contacted for any upcoming meetings. How they do that
via email or via text?
But then you're okay. I mean, there's a lot of privacy issues that are attached to that. So I guess if making text in addition available to either having it mailed, having it emailed, or text messaging, I think that, of course, any communication medium or channel, I think, should be made available to the public to be notified.
Right. I wasn't suggesting text blast in lieu of the other channel, certainly.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. Anything else for the good of cause on this number 4?
Hi,
yes,
Lila.
Yes.
So just to echo this, there many departments do offer mailing lists, and I'm signed up for them, but it's different for every department, and perhaps as an addendum to this project, maybe there would be a way for people to sign up to get a digest of the all upcoming meetings 48 hours in advance. Since the date is already going to be there, if people can just sign up and get a digest of it with links back to what will already exist on the city website.
Well, 72 hours in advance for the Brown Act.
Oh, I know it's 72 hours. I was giving a buffer in between when it needs to be posted and when it would be sent out. But sure, as soon as it's already required to be up there, I think people could sign up and just get a daily digest if they want of what the meetings that are coming up 72 hours ahead.
I think
sounds like a news director's dream come true.
It's
exactly.
I think it would be safe to say that for this current motion that we did, that a downloadable link for all the meetings posted should be made available. Something like that. It's very easy to be done. Yeah, I think that falls within the rubric for this item. Okay, are we ready to move on? Okay, great. Let's move on. Let's go to item number 5.
Oh wait, sorry, I have something else on item 4.
Yes. Yes.
It's unrelated to that, but it's related to chemo's text around the being visually present at meetings. The software for the reason I'm via phone is that, or via phone without the video, is that the software would not work. And so I think to whatever extent that is within our purview, we need to address that somehow, because if I wasn't here right now, I don't think we'd have quorum, and if I can't call in, then I wouldn't be here right now.
Right, so that it will be covered in our next item, number 5.
Okay.
Please call the next
Ready?
item. Yes.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Item number 5, administration of regular Sunshine Ordinance Task Force remote hearings.
Okay, so we need to find a way to begin to have regular meetings. I plan on launching this starting in September. And we have through the end of this month for today to figure out what is needed in order to have a remote meeting, in order to stay compliant with the Sunshine Ordinance and the Brown Act. And then through the end of the month, we'll work to make that happen. And we'll see how close we get come September to be able to do that. Other city boards and commissions are already having meetings. And for them, fortunately, they're being televised on SF.gov TV for live streaming. So there's that. I think the point that member Josh Wolf just brought up is extremely important, and we've heard this from public testimony in previous meetings, is that while the task force is on this Microsoft Teams application, and some of us have video on and we can see each other, the public cannot. And if we were in chambers at the City Hall, people would have the opportunity to appear. So I think there absolutely needs to be some way to have the public be able to see us, because they'll want to know if quorum is being maintained. I think that's very important for all boards and commissions. That is something that we put in our recommendations that we spoke about earlier, and we now need to find a way to implement that. I understand that Microsoft Teams is not going to be used that much, that another platform is going to be implemented. And I know in that if they're using WebEx, which is that other platform, there is a way to provide a link for viewing only, and everybody else would have to call in. So that's the way I've been experiencing it. The only other meetings I've been able to see is the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission and others, but they're all videos on SF.gov TV. So unless we're able to do the same, we're going to have to find another way to figure this out. So let's think about what features and functions do we need to have active during meetings so that we can conduct an actual hearing, for a complaint, and be assured for all parties involved that the ordinance and the Brown Act are being complied with.
Well, this is the other real quick before we really deep into what we need. I have a question for, I guess, Cheryl or Victor, is what platform is the city able to use at the moment? So we're on.
Deanna, can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, can you repeat that again?
I was having a question for Cheryl and Victor, what platforms is the city able to actually use and have access to at this time? Before we start getting deep into what we need.
Well, nobody has come to me with any suggestions or information to use another platform other than what we've already established for Teams, for us. Victor, have you heard anything?
As far as I know, the Board of Supervisors will be continuing using Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
But you're not restricted in any way from using a platform. Say we wanted to move to that. I don't know.
I won't be able to
can't
answer
comment
that
on that.
question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have any support from our own IT staff if we move to a different platform.
Okay.
All right, then we're going to need.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to give some of my experience with this. And a few months ago, Victor was very kindly connected, the team at the California Public Utilities Commission with the IT team at the city, and in order to get some best practices and ideas to find something that works. The platform that we ended up using is something similar to Microsoft Teams. It's WebEx, but what the commissioners end up doing is similar to this platform. The commissioners will be logged into this platform. The screen that we see here with everyone, in addition to one that has just a copy at least of the cover sheet of our agenda with the call-in information, is piped through from WebEx, or in this case, Microsoft Teams, to Admin Monitor. I'm sure a number of you are very familiar with Admin Monitor. It is, what the legislature uses to post, to show hearings and stream hearings, things like that. So the platform for the remote meeting is piped through to Admin Monitor so the public can see the commissioners there, as well as one screen that's not a commissioner. It's the cover page of the agenda, which has a phone number, which is with a Verizon operator. AT&T also offers the service. The Verizon operator is managing the call-in line. So the public is seeing everything live through Admin Monitor, seeing what the commissioners are talking about. And then the AT&T operator is managing the call-in line, where the call-in listeners can also hear what's going on at the meeting. But this is their opportunity to make public comment through that call-in line. And that queue is managed by the operator, not by our clerk. But the operator is working in conjunction with the president of our commission. And in this case, it would be with Bruce, to manage opening the line and taking public comment on the items. So it's a combination of using an AT&T operator, using a platform like Microsoft Teams, in our case it's WebEx, and then Admin Monitor to channel the live stream for people to view online. So not simple by any means, but I just wanted to give an example of what another commission is doing. Thanks.
So that's a great solution. Go ahead.
Sorry, Bruce. Sorry, Josh. No, I was just going to say that Roberta Bloomer of the MTA has been, she's going to retire in December, but before that, she sent out an email to many different department heads, well, not department heads, but custodians and people that are facilitating meetings like the ones we're doing now, asking them what platform they're using, have they experienced any difficulties, and she's collecting this information. It's like 5 questions. I sent my response to her, but she might be somebody worth contacting to find out what the consensus has been amongst these other departments that are within the city. It's just a thought.
Vice Chair Wolf.
I think that's a really elegant solution to the back end side of it, the presentation to the public. The area that I still am stuck in is that I 2 times now have had no luck with Microsoft Teams. To some extent, to whatever extent we are trying to come up with a solution that works for all boards and commissions, or a standard that works for all boards and commissions. I'm probably not the best example of someone who is inside the digital divide. I just got some software glitches that I can eventually work through. But it seems like not necessarily does every board and commission member have a device or the wherewithal to have their camera working. Certainly the Board of Supervisors or any paid commissioner members, I think we can have a much higher level of expectation. But for our volunteers to the city, it feels like an interesting area that requires some thought and consideration.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Is a difficult situation. I'm wondering, can Microsoft Teams be accessed through a web browser and not having to download the software?
Yes.
Okay.
Not on the phone, it can.
Oh, not on the phone. I see. Okay. All right. So for different devices, it won't allow that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Fiona.
I've done Microsoft Teams through a browser for work, and it's kind of clunky. Also, the app is really clunky. So it's okay if you have the program on a computer, but other than that, it's not the best platform for interfacing.
Okay, Victor, I was under the impression from some discussion with Clerk Angela Calvillo that the Board of Supervisors is going to be moving to WebEx. Is that not happening?
People who call in through WebEx, and then we connect it to our Teams. But we have a separate operator. One of our staff members is monitoring that WebEx account and unmuting them and muting them and forwarding them to speak.
To the Teams. Is there no way for us to just use WebEx for the whole thing?
I do not have an answer for that. I'm not experienced with WebEx myself.
Okay. All right. Great.
In terms of the clerks, we are only using the Microsoft Teams side of it, and we have other people who operate the WebEx for public comment for us.
Okay. All right. So let's do this, folks. I want to troubleshoot items too much. I want to just get an idea of what features and functions we need to run a meeting. Because we can spend all day figuring out this application does this, but this other one doesn't do that. And, there are going to be limitations, not only for functionality, but in actual, whether they actually can operate, well or not on certain platforms. Obviously, a Microsoft product is going to work well on Windows, its own product, versus maybe Macintosh or a Linux or something, or on a smartphone, for that matter. So
outside of the technical side of it, I think that we may have something to really explore, whether it requires it may not require a shift in our bylaws, but it's something to think about, which is that presumably our complainants are going to be calling in, or maybe calling in, even if we do provide access to them to log in through the visual platform. Even if we have them logged in through the visual platform, the way to show documents or documentation is a bit of a technical hurdle, potentially. And so I think we have to explore what that looks like. In many ways, having anyone provide the documents through email to us ahead of time would be great, but that may be a limitation that extends beyond what's possible. I'm just sort of thinking of this from a less software-oriented perspective right now.
Yeah.
We do start hearing, my assumption is that we'll be inviting complainants and petitioners to log into Teams. And if they do log into Teams, and they can share their screen with all the members.
They can share their screen, but I don't know whether they can as easily show a video or something like, I recognize that the software allows these things, but I don't know whether we should assume our complainants have the technical prowess or not.
That is the big
Or maybe
question
just
as to
buggy
how to train
software
members
like
of the
me.
public to participate via video conference.
Well, hold on a minute. Generally, when in our chambers, when people do presentations as part of their testimony, those are items that are already contained or submitted for the agenda. We don't usually accept new information on the day of the day of the hearing. So all those items can be sent in ahead of the meeting, and then somebody who's moderating the meeting can actually throw it up on the screen.
So the AV system is to just bring emphasis to documents that are already in the case file. They're not to introduce new material, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think Meyer alluding to potentially like sometimes complainants like to show an overhead or show a slide that or show some piece of paper on the overhead. So how do we see that? Do they have the capacity to share content on share this, or would that be just a host thing? That kind of question. Yeah.
Right. Okay. What are some other items? What other things do we need? Just think about a regular meeting. Okay. What do we need to have present and working and active to make that happen? We have a timer, and we have the ability to use sound instead of a visual for timer. We have so I have video viewing of the meeting of us. I have sharing of screen, and then making sure that the software works on all operating systems and platforms and is accessible. Timer. What are some other things that we need for a meeting?
I believe you might need to make a determination of whether or not we're going to allow complainants and respondents to participate via Teams, or if we want them to participate via telephone.
I think we need to have them participate by Teams. They got to be they're part of the whole process. I think they need to be available. It needs to be available. We need to be able to see them, that kind of thing. So. And if they're not able to, or if it's anonymous, or person with a disability, doesn't have technology be able to help them get on a video line, then they can call in by phone. But they will have more priority over the audience.
One thing I was trying to brainstorm with you, Chair Wolf, is maybe closed captioning. Is that something that we could try and add to the list, just if possible? It's something that my work has run into, and we were really recently able to implement via WebEx and with Live. But if we're just trying to make a list, I think we should add that for access and functional needs.
Sure.
Thank you. One other thing with I know you mentioned the but if we have complainants that are joining by video, it would be nice if we could have some kind of timer on the screen that they could look at so that they could get their traditional 30-second warning without Cheryl having to worry about needing to also take minutes and look at her kitchen timer. So,
You know, Fiona, it's not that hard. I don't mind doing it. It's fine.
okay.
It's fine.
At this point, even the Board of Supervisors does not have that. I am
Okay.
just using my timer, and when it ends, I tell them their time has expired.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to get real techie about it, you can set it up to a ding at 30 seconds. Before that kind of thing.
My kitchen timer won't do that. If I had that ability, I would be a better baker.
Okay.
And I also second Luam's member testifies. Sorry, advocating for closed captioning. I'm pretty good at knowing how closed captions work on these platforms, but I don't know how it would work on Teams. Yeah. I don't know how easy that is on Teams. I know how it works in other platforms, but not Teams.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for public comment, see if we can get some more ideas from the public side of the experience, and then let's see what we can do about bringing this item to a close, and we'll work on what we can do through the end of the month and see if we can make it happen. So let's open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes. So one thing that I found somewhat disconcerting is that it seems like every single committee in the city uses their own video conferencing software. Like one group will use Zoom, one will use Google Meet, one will use WebEx, one will use Microsoft Teams, and so it's very hard to keep track of what software. And I mean, there's usually always a dial-in option, but the phone numbers for change. I remember the Board of Supervisors. Some people were complaining that they were using a long-distance number, and so the charges for calling in were very exorbitant. I believe they're using a local number now, but so it would be very nice if there was some sort of standardized citywide policy for video conferencing, and then some companies allow you to participate, to join in WebEx and sort of see who all is there in WebEx, whereas others you can only call in, and so the policies vary a lot. It's just really, really confusing. And then another thing is, I know a lot of these video conferencing software things allow people to send private messages to each other. So one thing that I find myself wondering is these people in their meetings. You can see them, or hopefully you can see them. Sometimes the videos don't work, or sometimes they have their cameras off or whatever. But in the back of my mind, it's well, are they sending each other private? Are they chatting behind our backs while they're talking to each other? So I don't know if there's some sort of way of kind of regulating that. So yeah, I guess so. Oh, and one last thought is, each of these video conferencing solutions, that they all have their own privacy policies and whatnot. So when I'm calling in, if I'm calling into a WebEx meeting, I assume that I'm probably subject to WebEx and Zoom's privacy policies. Although when you join on through the browser or whatever, you get that privacy policy notice, and it's oh well, I'm selling my soul away to Zoom. But you don't get that when you're calling in through the phone, and so like I'm honestly not all that comfortable using like these third-party applications to access government meetings. And I suppose it's probably not that practical to ask the city of San Francisco to build their own video conferencing software. But certainly one thing to keep in mind is like
her time is up.
And sort of what are these corporations doing with the information of citizens?
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Your time is up. Next speaker, please. Is there any other public on this item?
Can I have your name, please?
No, you cannot ask your name.
All right.
No.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to comment and second about, a need for platform uniformity. So far in many of the public meetings I've attended, I think WebEx has so far been the most seamless. I also think that, yes, there needs to be making sure that all the call-in numbers are 415 and not like out of the city, so that they can have access to still get charged for not calling a 415 number. And also that there needs to be more explicit prompt commands in the public meeting agendas about how to do public comment, like *6. In the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force meeting agenda, it's not explicitly stated that you have to press *6 to actually do mute yourself or unmute yourself. So I think that needs to be explicitly stated in agendas for all public meetings, because not everyone knows that, and if it's their first time calling in, then they probably didn't know that they were muted or unmuted. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Any other public speaker? Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. Okay, members, is there anything else that you can think of? Okay, well, this is a good start. I will, may call upon one of you to help with this, since I'm pretty swamped with a lot of stuff myself, just to kind of help flush out some of the technological stuff. But if you have anything else that comes to mind after the meeting, feel free to send it to Cheryl at sotf@sfgov.org, and we'll add it to the list and see if it's something that we can include. We're looking to try and replicate our regular meetings, so let's keep it to that kind of confines. I will say for one public commenter that it is part of our recommendations for there to be a single web conferencing platform, so that there is some predictability and familiarity of the public on what there is going to be used from meeting to meeting. There are limitations for each of these platforms, especially if they choose to use them on their own. Some of them only allow a certain number of participants, depending upon if they have a paid plan or a free plan, or even if it's a paid plan, if it's not a top level tiered plan, it may be a limited number of participants. And we have received a number of complaints. I have personally, and I think some community groups have reported it, that are Sunshine advocates, that all the seats get taken up before before they have an opportunity to get to speak in public comments. So you have a kind of a mad dash to get on a meeting, and if you're well organized, you can prevent a lot of people from not actually participating in the meeting, which would be a serious violation of the Brown Act around barrier to access to a meeting. So so we want to make sure that we cover that part too. And we want to make sure that whatever platform the city chooses eventually is accessible by all. So, okay, with that, I don't think there really is much there's no action to take here yet. I don't think there isn't any there, because there really isn't anything on the floor to really approve. We just want to try and get an idea here in discussion for what needs to be included, and work with the clerk's office to see how close we can to come to a meeting. And if it's not possible, then we're going to have to figure out another way. We're going to have to keep working on this and see what we can come up with, and and keep the conversation going. All right. Okay. Let's move to the next item.
Item number 6, complaints received from members of the public regarding commission meetings.
So as I mentioned, I've been receiving a number of complaints. I'm wondering if now that it's been almost 6 months since the shelter-in-place order. 6 months. Since months, I've been sitting on this couch looking into this computer and not moving. But just wondering if any of you have heard any reports or any experiences that you might have been having that we can address directly to commissions. I think it's one of our charges to assure that the administration of the Sunshine Ordinance, including the Brown Act and the California Public Records Act, is operating as fully as possible. And now that we're in a place where it's supposed to, I think it's incumbent upon us. So I just, for the sake of, I have the floor here, something that happened just today. I got included in an email to, I believe, the secretary of the police commission, stating that there were a number of reports by certain command staff and administration in the police department that were agendized all together in one agenda item. And the complaint that I was included in was happening before the meeting ever began. So it's kind of rare that we would actually even hear or know about something that is about to happen before it happens. We usually end up with a complaint about something that's already happened in the past. So here the issue was that they were these three reports were going to be discussed all in one agenda item, which would actually limit public comment to 2 minutes for all three of them. And the ordinance is pretty specific about having items that are not related to each other to be separated, independent, as separate items, whether for discussion or for action. It doesn't matter if they're going to be put on an agenda. So that was the kind of the question and complaint that this person was asking about, and making a request. So I felt compelled, and I CC'd our administrator, so it's kind of on the record, it's reported, just reminding that secretary or who's running that meeting, that contact person, and quoted the ordinance that there is a requirement, and to please review the ordinance and make adjustments as they see fit to be in compliance with the ordinance. I didn't make any directive. They didn't make any kind of order for them to do anything. I just provided them with the information for them to make their own decision about how they want to carry that out. But I did let them know that, we're watching, and, we're on notice. They're on notice at this point that we're watching. And I think it's important, as, you can visit, one commission, watch a few meetings, see how it goes. If you see any anomalies, I think it's important that we, as a task force, help educate. This is really part of education, to educate those boards and commissions during this extraordinary time to how to make their meetings run better and to assure that the public is fully informed, and their presentation is important. Because the majority, 99% of their work is not being done in a meeting. The meeting is a culmination of a lot of work that's been done before the meeting that is now being approved. And that's where the rubber meets the road. So with that, if anybody else have any experiences or anything they want to report? No. Okay, I can offer you another one. This is, I've mentioned this before, but it continues to seem to be happening. The Planning Commission, they're used Zoom, and even though you can watch it on SF.gov TV, there is sometimes a limited number of seats, and there's been a lot of complaints from members of the public that they're not able to get in to give their public comment. And what's important about that is they're about to approve a permit, and there's no way to kind of ask them to continue it after the fact, you know, unless you want to file an appeal. But then you got to pay money in order to file an appeal. So there's been some consternation around that commission too. And what's interesting is about that commission is that there's an intersection of two other commissions, which is the Historical and Preservation Status, I think Historical Status Commission, and the Zoning Commission. So they all have to approve sometimes the same item. So, you know, figuring out how you're going to attend a meeting, again, this goes back to not having a standard or kind of an approved standard platform. Makes it very difficult for the public to navigate and attend these meetings online. Okay, so if there isn't any other complaints from members, I'm going to open it up to public comment. We can hear from the public directly. So let's open up for public comment. Do you have anything to report? Any speakers? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to leave this item on the agenda so that as things come in, you know, we'll have it there, and you can feel free to make these reports. And we'll certainly push these constantly up to the Board of Supervisors, you know, as kind of how things are operating as things progress. I think that's an important litmus to kind of figure out how everybody is conducting their meeting, their public meeting. Okay, let's move to the next item, 7.
Item number 7, file number 20102, review amendments to Sunshine Ordinance, Administrative Code 67, regarding adjustment of nominating organizations from NAM to NorCal SPJ. Okay, so this is a kind of exciting moment because it has been somewhat 20 years since there was an amendment to the Sunshine Ordinance that wasn't just the grammar or formatting or updates from state law. This is something that we're doing locally. And it's a long time coming because we've had this empty seat that probably one of the most important seats because it represents the members of multicultural, multidiversity representation in the media. And so very happy to announce that the Rules Committee met on Monday. There were about 16 public commenters, which was for this particular item, which
I think was very exciting to see so many people attending at 10 o'clock in the morning and then having to wait, because that was the first item. It got skipped. So I was glad everybody stuck around. I did speak in support of this on behalf of the task force, and it was voted unanimously by the committee and forwarded out of committee to the Board of Supervisors. So usually when that happens...
Just to state, it was not sent out.
Right.
It was continued to the call.
Right. It was continued. Right. There were some amendments to kind of expand on the kind of the description of what the position should be required. And I don't know if that is in our contained in that update was contained in today's agenda. I think it may have. It's the yellow.
It will be scheduled at the Rules Committee this coming Monday for final recommendation, and then it'll go to the full board on the following week.
Okay, but it did get
at least 2 more weeks.
It did get approved unanimously in concept. The whole idea of it. That was announced.
Sure, Wolf?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about it? Because I saw it on Twitter, but I didn't get to participate that day. But what I had seen on Twitter was that somehow, even though New American Media, which is a minority-owned media outlet, was no longer going to be in charge of the seat, somehow the diversity element was going to be retained. Could you tell us a little bit more about how that's going to be ensured? I think it would be nice for those on the phone and me to know. Thank you.
Well, actually, maybe I should hand it over to Member LaHood, since she is a representative of NorCal SBJ that's going to actually be making this nomination.
So yes, so SPJ NorCal is happy to take on the responsibility for this. The nominations for Sunshine Ordinance Task Force candidates are managed by our Freedom of Information Committee, and they are very much committed to seeking out candidates who reflect the spirit and intention of the original, the way the ordinance was originally worded. What is getting transferred is responsibility for doing this work, since New America Media no longer exists. And SPJ NorCal wanted to make sure that the mission and intention was carried on in the same way, and is very much committed to following through with that.
Okay. And for Vice Chair Wolf, I think this one actually will appeal to him, and I'll read it verbatim. For the purposes of this section, the term, quote, journalist, unquote, shall be interpreted broadly, including but not limited to freelance journalists, photographers, and videographers, period.
Sounds good.
And if you know Vice Chair Wolf's history, that is definitely pertaining. Okay, so I just want to let everybody know what that update was. So we'll be hopefully and soon joined by finally that seat being filled. I have no, I don't know whether our administrator has any updates or news on whether the Rules Committee has scheduled the appointments at this point.
I think Victor can better address that than I can.
It is a very, very tentative schedule for the 31st, but I don't have confirmation yet. There was just some back and forth regarding that date for consideration. Okay. There are several people where I do not have applications for, maybe not several, but if you have not submitted your application yet, please do so now. Member LaHood, I don't know if SPJ will be sending the 2 recommendations for seat 1 and 2 and working on the last one once the ordinance becomes effective.
Yes, I believe that's the intention.
Okay.
Chair Wolf, can I make a few remarks on that actually?
Sure. Go ahead.
I wanted to make these remarks, and I think this might just be the right time. So, I wanted to let everybody know that I will not be continuing as the League's representative in this seat, and so I just wanted to take a moment to express my honor and gratitude to serve with all of you. I've served on the Sunshine and Ordinance Task Force for over 4 years, and I let the League know that I wanted to extend this opportunity to another one of our members. A number of you have served with me, over that entire time period. So, Chair Wolf, Member Hinsey, Member Highland, and Vice Chair Wolf. And I just wanted to thank all of you for your service, in addition to also thanking the rest of the members, Victor Young, Cheryl Leger, as well as Mark Price-Wolf, for all of the continued support that they've committed to making sure that the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is able to fulfill its duties, especially, in the midst of a pandemic. I really appreciated the opportunity to represent the League of Women Voters of San Francisco. Most of you know that I'm on the board of the League, and I've been for over 6 years. And so, it's been an honor to represent the League on this board, and also bringing my experience as an attorney and, a public servant outside of the task force to help us analyze compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance, the Public Records Act, and the Brown Act. And, in addition to that, I also understand the importance of serving on this task force as a Black woman and helping this organization to be more representative of the people it serves. That is a reflection of the question that I had that Member LaHood so kindly explained, how the Society of Professional Journalists is also committed to that. And, I also wanted to express that I, over the last few months, have been working very closely with the board of the League of Women Voters to create an opportunity for another one of our very qualified members to serve and take on this seat, while also remaining committed to our organization's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm really excited for the new person who I believe will be, I don't want to reveal who it is until the Rules Committee goes through their process, but who I believe will be joining you for the next meeting in September. And, I stay committed to following through with the memo that we discussed earlier in this meeting and getting that done before leaving the task force. But, I'm also really excited about this new person who's going to bring, additional perspective and insight, as well as diversity to this board. And this person's going to be, I think, a really great addition. So really excited about that. So just thanks, everybody. That's all.
Oh, thank you. I mean,
Thank
we
you,
are so.
Thank you.
Luan, one of the things I really enjoyed about working with you is your ability to listen to all sides and in 1 or 2 sentences really pinhole what the important issue to be discussed and we should look at really is. And for me on my job, that's very helpful.
Well, we are all very honored and blessed for your presence here. It has been extremely valuable. I know for me it's been very valuable and excellent working with you, as I'm sure it has been for everybody else. And I'm sure whoever your replacement is will do just as good a job, but I am certainly going to miss your presence for sure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, is there any public comment on this item? Hearing no public comment. Okay, then let's move on to the next item.
Okay, if you guys could just hang on a second. Okay. Let's see. Item number 8. Administrator's report, complaints, and communications. So I was unable to print my report, but I am looking at it right now. The complaint committee, which is typically scheduled for the 18th of this month, will be canceled. The compliance and amendments committee, I was speaking to Chair LaHood today, and we have one matter for the 25th. And it was a matter that would have been heard at our last meeting, but the complainant emailed me and said that he was ill, so he couldn't attend. So that's the one issue that is going to be discussed at that meeting on the 25th. And the next task force meeting, and I'm promising this because I've already started drafting an agenda, will be September 2nd, which is the Wednesday before Labor Day. Okay.
All right.
We had several new complaints come in, many of which were from one complainant, Mr. Carl Kramer. He was requesting an analysis of various departments having to do with their minimum wage ordinance and how they budget for that. Let's see what else we have. We had, and due to that, we had a rise of about 24 new complaints this month, which I'm in the process of getting out. I've already written the summaries, and I just have to send them out to the various departments with their paperwork, etc. And then no communications from members of the public in July at all. We received about 213 emails. And what I have done, I don't know if I've said this to you before, but I have asked IT at City Hall to forward my phone at the office to my cell phone, and I've been taking calls from people. It's no problem. I don't mind taking them at all. And we continue to get more emails. So, I mean, I'm actually pretty busy. So that's kind of the administrator's report. I also provided the list of emails that we've gotten, deleting things that were either administrative or from members of my department. So these are straight emails from members of the public asking about their cases or different sunshine issues.
Okay. Great. I just have a quick question with regards to the accounting of how many sorry, dinner time over here. Somebody doesn't want to leave me alone. Of how many complaints we have backlog here. So on number 3, it says last month total pending complaints. Is that aggregate from?
No, that's all. That's
all.
That's the complaint. Those are the complaints that have yet to be heard by a committee.
Okay, and then the next one, it says this month's total pending. Is that in addition?
Because there was an increase in the number of complaints that we received.
Yeah, but is it an additional 98, or is it?
No.
Okay.
It's 24.
24. Okay, so this is an aggregate cumulative. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, great. All right, so that is kind of what we're going to be dealing with, folks, upcoming, and we're going to probably reactivate the complaint committee, and the task force is going to split the 45-day and jurisdictional actions for these items so that they can be scheduled. We won't hear jurisdiction and then actually run through the case. We're just going to do it kind of exactly what the complaint committee normally does. Hear the introduction, hear the parties, make sure we have all the documents so that the file is complete, and then get it ready for a hearing. So we're probably going to start that either way, and we're just going to have to figure out how to do that. Now, the last Compliance and Amendments Committee was kind of a test run to see how this is all going to work. But we were hearing ongoing issues that were already discussed by the and referred to the Compliance and Amendments Committee. So it wasn't like we had to go through the entire process. So that's kind of where things are at. So anyway, I just want to say that it's quite a bit of a backlog. The task force has been in this place before, having not been able to meet for several months. We're just going to have to kind of knuckle down and be a little bit of all hands on deck to kind of get everything back in motion. And so and then our clock will begin again in September for the 45-day rule, so we can start getting all these underway. And I've asked our administrator, Cheryl, to contact everyone and ask them if they would be open to waiving the 45-day rule. It's on the intake form when they made their complaint. It certainly helps in this particular period of time. It would be very, very helpful to help us with scheduling. But we don't want to, delay justice at the same time either. So, okay, Cheryl, is there anything else?
On my end, nope. I think. Oh, wait a minute. Take that back. This will be up for the next item.
Okay.
We're
not ready for that yet. Members, are there any comments for the administrator's report? Okay, let's open up for public comment. Any public testimony, any public comment on the administrator's report? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the next item.
Item number 9, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
Okay, members, anything you need to report or want to provide for this section? No?
I didn't say earlier. I just want to say, Luam, thank you, and we're going to miss you.
That's for sure. Cheryl, do you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, it's an email that I got from Victor today, and it says August 31st is a very tentative date for the task force appointment considerations by rules. You may want to give a heads up to members and ask that they be sure they submitted their application forms. Okay. So for those of you who are due, we need that information.
Great.
Okay, so that's what Victor asked me to bring up to everybody. He didn't think he'd be able to stay to the whole meeting.
And I just want to recognize we have a number of folks that are kind of in our audience, in our gallery here, that we may or may not have heard from. But there is somewhat of a question, not necessarily a requirement, but there's always that question on the application as to whether you have attended or know about the Sunshine Task Force. And so I just want to welcome anybody who is applying to be on the Sunshine Task Force that is here listening in with us and attending the meeting today, and in our process and what we're doing. Okay, seeing no other comments from the task force members, is there any public comment in for this particular item? Okay, seeing none, let's move to the next item.
Item number 10, adjournment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Who said that?
Luan.
Oh, Luan.
Member
Okay.
Tesfaye in her last act. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I would like us to close in recognition and commemoration to Member Tesfaye and the great work that she's done here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating.
Thanks, everybody.
All those in
We'll
favor
stay-
say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.
All right. It is
Thank you very much.
5:59.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you very much,
Thanks, everyone. Stay in touch.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Luan. Bye.
Hey,
Bye.
Chris, you showed up.
Hey, Chris. All right.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.